Sisters, listen closely. Finding out he's the one can sometimes feel like traveling through a desert of uncertainty. I mean, every time you feel like you've reached an oasis, it ends up being a mirage. As your resident sister and friend, here are 5 common red flags that you need to steer clear away from. First up, if he's asking for your phone number straight off the bat, but not your dad's, well, that's a major red flag waving in your face. Next, if he's hitting you up with texts and calls late at night, you better believe he's not serious, and chances are he won't respect your boundaries. Watch out for those put-downs disguised as sarcastic banters. You know, the ones that make you the butt of the joke? It's time to show him the door. And if he's more interested in hearing himself talk than listening to what you have to say, girl, that's a sign you need to run in the opposite direction. And let's not forget the classic line, "My ex was crazy." Yeah, right. If he's mouthing his ex left and right, chances are he's the one with the issues. And those are just the obvious red flags. Let's help you uncover what's really hiding underneath the surface with Vibe Check, the ultimate prompt card game for meaningful connections. Crafted with deep respect for Islamic traditions, Vibe Check goes beyond the surface, allowing you to discover the essence of your potential life partner's faith, character, and aspirations. With 8 thoughtfully crafted categories and 135 thought-provoking questions, Vibe Check ensures a comprehensive understanding of your potential spouse, from values and ambitions to personal quirks and preferences. I mean, skip the surface-level discussions and dive straight into what truly matters. Visit our website, www.thedigitalstory.com now, and take the first step towards finding your righteous partner. Your journey to marital bliss begins here. This episode touches on themes of suicide, sexual violence, and violence that may be triggering to some individuals. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is your sister and friend Adar, and you're listening to the Digital Sisterhood Podcast. All right, we're back again, okay? I know we left you guys on a little bit of a cliffhanger, but we're back. Last week, we heard from Sara, a young woman who on her journey of falling in love with her faith as a teen fell into the trap of radicalization. Doe-eyed, naive, well-intentioned, Sara was a perfect victim for these groomers who convinced her that making a radical decision in the name of her deen would be the most pleasing to Allah. Her predators made the process easy and convenient as ever. They planned a route, provided her flight tickets, and even connected her with a friend to accompany her on her travels. And while anyone would see Sara as a vulnerable child, in the eyes of the law, she was an adult. To them, she made an adult decision and would have to pay the adult price. A story all too common for racialized youth. We left off when Sara was arrested and on her way back to be imprisoned in France.
When I come back to France, I thought that all is gonna come back to me. I told myself, Alhamdulillah, I went prison in Hungary. All the stuff in Hungary is done. Now I'm gonna go back to France. At least they know human rights.
Yeah, quote unquote. At least they know human rights. Yeah.
Yes, at least. But I was definitely wrong, totally, A to Z. I went back to France, and I think that I was going back to my parents' house. At least I took that I was going to the police, like answering like question, having interview, doing this and that, and the judge gonna let me go home, you know. but I was definitely wrong, dead wrong. It didn't happen like that. I saw the judge and I had all the interview. They put me in prisons. In my mind, I thought I was going to say like 1 or 2 weeks before going home, but I stayed there for a month, a whole month. And in this month, I discovered the prison life in France. And, I went through the prison in Hungary where I was with 10 people in one cell. Remember, when I come back in France, I had the terrorist stigma on me. They put me in special measure and they give me like the isolement measure. It's like you cannot have any contacts with all the prisoners.
Solitary confinement.
Yes.
Subhanallah.
I had this, and it was like still no, if I have to tell you like my biggest hardship in my whole life, first one is gonna be the solitary issue, even before the things that happen in Hungary. Because you can be physically tortured, but between physically and mentally tortured, the worst part for me is the mentally tortured. Subhanallah. Because Allah created us to be in tribe, to be in group, to be in family. He said in the Quran, He created us in pair to be with people so we can recognize each other. So can you imagine taking someone and put him in a cell with no contact anymore with people? Allah didn't create the human to be like this, And once you are in the solitary isolement, you start to feel the importance of the ummah, of the community, of having a people, just having someone next to you so you can talk to this person. I had no contact with the prisoner, and the only guard I have contact to, it was when they were going to bring me food.
Wow.
No conversation, no asking me how I am doing, no nothing. It was just me and my own self,
Subhanallah.
I never went on. I stayed in prison like for 5-6 months, and all these 5-6 months I was alone. I felt crazy being all day, to the morning, to the night, being alone in the cell, talking to nobody. At that time, like no TV, no nothing, no book. Like in my first month, it was the crazy part that I felt like psychologically I needed help. So I asked to the guard if I can have a therapist, I feel that I needed the contact to talk to someone. And they said I could. And after that, I had a therapist beside my parent that had the permission to visit me, because I asked for my parent and my sibling, but they denied that my sibling. They said no for my sibling to visit me, but they said yes for my parent. So I only had my parent to visit me, and it was 2 to 3 times in the week for 1 hour. So for 1 hour, 2-3 times in the week, I saw my parent, but it was, the old way when there is like
a glass between you guys.
Yes, there is a glass between you and your parents. And
oh my God.
Subhanallah, I just felt like alone in this whole world. Just me and Allah. And some people giving me food, nothing else. It still affects me in my life, It's still like I developed a fragility that my own psychiatrist and therapist told me that because of that, I developed like a fragility.
While this level of isolation would drive anyone crazy, statistics have shown time and time again that solitary confinement is extremely harmful to brain development in young inmates. And it may have even lasting impacts on their mental health even their brain function for years to come. It's no wonder that prison rights groups in France are currently advocating to end this inhumane practice. 15 those sparse visits from her parents and the guards who would give her food, the only other person Sara had access to was her therapist.
When I was in prison and that I asked to have the therapist because I wasn't doing well, and subhanallah, she was the ladies that helped me the most, like giving me the human support I need in prison. Like, as I told you, I wasn't going outside. I was 24 hour to 24 hour in my cell. And then I said to her, I don't understand. I think that I took that, prisoner, they were going out. And she said to me, it's not normal. So after that, she did all the stuff she has to do. And then they allowed me to have 1 hour being out, of the cell.
Wow.
In the morning.
She advocated. She advocated for you.
Yes, subhanallah. And all the things was going on in my mind, I was telling to her. So, subhanallah, I felt like even if I was in solitary measure, I felt like psychologically drained, tired, drained, nothing going on, that I still have the hope in Allah. But, when you still have the hope in Allah, you want to speak to people like about your struggle, what you're going through. And to the side of my parents, it's like big enough for them to see their doctor, crying and having all this stuff. So I didn't want it like to bring all this stuff to my parents. So I just wanted that when we see each other, we just talk and laugh and everything's going well and having hope so I can go out of prison. But in the other side, when I was with my therapist, all the things I was doing is just crying. So, subhanallah, basically what happened to me is that, I was in France. It was the year they were talking a lot about ISIS in the TV documentary, the stuff they were doing. So, subhanallah, each time some things happen to Europe, if some things happen to France or another country in Belgium, the ladies in the prison, the prisoner that I never
get upset.
Yeah, they get upset and they use it to come next to my door, because you have to know that in my prison at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in the corridor of the cell, they have a big table with a TV, so they can all come together, watch at the TV, the news, speak to them, for the night.
So they can speak to each other, yeah. They can speak to each other, hang out.
Yes. They can hang out in the corridor of the prison. So each time they were going out of the corridor so they can hang out together, each time something's happening, they were upset and coming to the door of my cell and just threaten me, like, when you're going out of your cell, we're going to kill you. Just wait what we are going to do with you, etc. They were grown women. Some of them were grandma, some of them were grandma, some of them were mom. And I was just a teenager, mind you. They were mostly in their 14, 13, old ladies. And I was shocked. And each time they were like, threatening me, I was telling to some guard. And, the guard, they just didn't care. One of them laughed. When I said to her, they threatened me, she laughed. So I just understand that back again, I was alone, that I think they were all just upset with what ISIS were doing, and they were just punishing me in return. They cannot punish ISIS in Syria, so instead they punish me.
As the months went on, Sara's mental health rapidly got worse. It was during the month of Ramadan, a month where people come together, that Sara's feeling of loneliness peaked. That was also when her thoughts became darker.
People were treating me bad, not giving me my right. And I didn't feel like, that the help is coming near. So I just felt down in depression, and on that day, like, it was the month that I feel so much hopeless. And in this same month, I had, like, the psychiatric examinations, like, to see if the person is mentally ill, if it's okay, if the things he did, it was like he was conscious or not of his act, etc., So when I had this psychiatrist coming to do the exam, it was in the beginning of Ramadan. And at first I was okay, like everything's went adi, even if I had my depression. But right before the last 10 days, I had my last interview with her. So she just saw me, and I was completely
Gone.
Yes, I was completely gone. I was in dunya, but at the same time, I wasn't in dunya anymore,
SubhanAllah.
I wasn't speaking, subhanAllah, I wasn't speaking to the guard. I stopped speaking to people. So it's like I didn't even have the energy to respond to the people. I stopped to eat. I stopped to talk. I was just tired and I just wished to die. And when she was with me, doing the interview, and I started to talk, and she just looked at me and she said, "What are you thinking? No, what do you want? What is your desire the most?" And I just said to her, "Days, I just wanna die. I just wanna die, so I cannot feel this pain anymore."
La ilaha illallah.
So sometimes I really think that at that time, if I had the ability to kill myself in this mind, with all this pain I went through, with all my story, I think that I would. Because I only see dark around me, like the light I wanted to see, like, it's just gone. And I just wish it to die so I can be with Allah and live this dunya forever, because I didn't see the light in the dunya anymore. So after this last interview in middle of Ramadan, and then I went back to my room. I stopped going outside for the hour. I stopped eating. I stopped talking, and everything. One day, some guard come to me and he said to me that I have to get ready because I have to go somewhere. Like the police were coming to take me somewhere. And I was particularly shocked because, when I had interrogatoire or some stuff to do, like speaking for for the file of my story to the policeman, I always had, it's always planned, so I knew the day. But this time, it's just a day that they just asked me to be ready. So I was particularly surprised. So I just get myself ready. And I was in the car, looking at the window. And then I asked them where I was going. And the policeman in the car, he said to me that we were going to see the judge. And I was asking myself, wow, why do I have to see the judge? What did I did wrong again? And the man next to me asked me a question, he asked me if I was liberated, where I want to go, the first thing I wanna do. And then it was a question that I didn't ask myself for a long time because I didn't see myself liberated. So I just stopped to ask myself this question. So when he asked me this question, I went deep in my thoughts and asking my heart what I want to do if I was liberated. And I remember back in myself that I was always looking at the window, especially when it was spring, when you see the green, the tree, and you can hear the birds singing, etc. So I was mostly looking at the birds, like, flying in the air. And when I was looking at them, for me, it was the definitions of freedom, When I was looking the birds, like flying, etc., it just reminded me of the roller coaster. And I just told to the man, I want to go to the theme park and just do some roller coaster. Maybe in their side, the things that I wanted to low and having fun, but for me it was the definition of freedom. So after that, he didn't ask me a question, and we went back silent to the car, and they brought me to the judge, and the judge asked me how I was doing, if everything went well. I just said, no, I'm not going well in prison, but it is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
I can do nothing about it. So he just looked at me and he said, I know. And then he said, I'm going to liberate you.
No.
Subhanallah, wallahi. He said to me, I'm going to liberate you. Everything else he said after that, I can
Even hear it.
Even hear it. Like, it's like my ear blocked, my ears. You know when you see someone and then everything went like blurry because you're starting to cry, but you don't know you're starting to cry. Like, I didn't hear anything else. I feel like he was moving his lips, but I can't hear what he was saying, and his face became blurry, and I just cried to start to cry, and I was crying, wallahi, and I was so shocked that I asked him if he was not joking. Like, I didn't want a prank. Like, are you serious? Are you going to liberate me? And he said yes, that he was going to liberate me.
Allahu Akbar.
Subhanallah.
Allahu Akbar.
And when I asked why, what's the reason, he said, I have the power to liberate you today or not because I'm the judge. And he said it's because of the psychiatric exams.
Oh, your
and
file.
About and about the things you did, and because this interview I had like a lot of day with her. I started my story to the back when I was young, when I was a baby in my country, what happened when my parents immigrated, all the question about my life.
You heard your whole story?
Yes, there was, I think, 20 pages.
20 pages of testimony of your story, explaining how you got here.
Yes.
SubhanAllah. And only then he pardoned you. After he heard your story from beginning to end is when he decided to grant you freedom. Yeah. Allahu Akbar. Subhanallah.
Because he tell me that all this stuff, it was just like, like majority of the kids that went through the same things as with me, manipulations. We were young, dumb, we did wrong things. So after he told me all this stuff that he going to liberate me, because I thought it was like tomorrow in the morning. I said, so tomorrow I'm liberated? He said, no, today, no, you are liberated. So I was shocked. He said, you're gonna come back to prison just to pack your stuff, and your parents going to take you back home. So I was shocked because tell you, subhanallah, it was like on the last 10 days. Like, the last 10 days, the next day.
So basically you were home on Eid.
Yes, I was like the last day of Ramadan, like the last day of Ramadan, I was in prison, but I was liberated. So for my last meal for Ramadan, I was with my family, and I had my Eid with my family because my grandma was making so much dua for me and saying to my mom, inshallah, the last 10 days she is with you, inshallah, you're gonna have your Eid with your daughter, and asking all the people around. Wallah, subhanallah, I didn't even knew that. My mom tell me this a year later. So when she tell me, and then I calculated and I said, I was liberated in the last 10 days. The Eid, like,
Allah accepted the dua. Allah accepted your dua. Exactly what she asked. She asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reunite you on Eid, and it's exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. I just have chills. That is so crazy.
So crazy. And there's some things again I want to say back to you. It's like, subhanallah, after hardship and difficulty, there is a ease, and you don't know when the ease is coming, but everything's were going bad to me. I knew that, like, I had like no help, nothing, but just because Allah decided to liberate me, He liberated me. Like, I didn't have to go somewhere to do some stuff to prove anything. He said I was liberated. He liberated me.
Subhanallah, isn't that just like, that's life? We go to sleep with the difficulty, and then the next sunset or sunrise, the difficulty is resolved.
Subhanallah.
Right? And subhanallah, it's a testimony of like, wallahi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala resolves all of our affairs. But these difficulties indeed are tests if you see them that way. It's always been about that perspective, that tadabbur, that reflection, understanding, to have sabr and what it means to have sabr. But also recognizing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not abandoned us. He's not left us alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, He's there, He's watchful. These are the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's watchful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forbearance, like his kindness is beyond understanding. Wisdom is beyond understanding. And what sabr means is to think good of Allah. And that's what you taught me, Sara. Like,
until this experience, it gave me to myself like a lesson too, because I was deep in my depression that I just gave up about this life, and I just wanted to die, not knowing that Allah were going to help me soon, and Allah subhanallah, He said in the Quran that He doesn't give you
a burden more than you can handle.
Yes, exactly. And when Allah saw that it's
too much, it was over for you. He resolved it.
Yes. He resolved that, and it just reminds me that each hardship I have in my life, I know that I can go through, and the time I know that it's too much for me, Allah gonna resolve it.
SubhanAllah, I tell people all the time that the hardships they experience still don't weigh as great as the ease Allah provides you. Okay, let me tell you my proof for that. I'll tell you my dalil, my evidence for that. Have you seen your sister give birth? Have you seen a friend give birth? They're literally on the brink of death, right? And every person I've ever spoken to that it's experienced child labor, they always say, like, I wanted to die, or I couldn't handle it. I was thinking, I'm never doing this again. I'm never having a child again. Why do women do that? Like, like all my friends are like traumatized by the experience when it's happening. They're like squeezing the life out of their husband's hands. Like, what, you did this to me? They're like already planning how they're never going to have a child. This is their one and only. That's it. Right? And then your friend or your mother or your sister has a child again. And you think, I thought you said you're never doing this again. I thought you said you're never going to do this again. But let me tell you why that's my proof. Because the moment they give birth to their baby, it's like they forgot what they just experienced. Wallahi, they testify. They're like, I would do this again and again and again. And it's proof. I mean, we're all here. Mankind. It's because women had us again and again and again. In our forgetfulness, subhanAllah, there's mercy in it, right? Because if we remembered our hardship, we wouldn't do it again. But let me tell you how the ease in this situation was greater than the hardship. Wallahi, it reminds me, obviously, the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا. فَإِنَّ مَعَ الْعُسْرِ يُسْرًا, right? But I don't think people deep that when Allah describes the ease, He's also describing that the ease is bigger than the hardship, right? And childbirth, for example, like I shared, is my proof for that. Or as a more relatable example, we'll have some tough days in Ramadan, right? Days when your throat is parched, your stomach is grumbling, or when you're struggling to stay on top of your work commitments while staying up for Tarawih. But once Eid comes, it is as though you've never experienced a second of discomfort. Matter of fact, many of us experience Ramadan blues. We always find ourselves on Eid saying, where did the time go? I wish I could do it again, right? We forget about all of the discomfort, all of the difficulty of fasting, right? It's subhanAllah, it's truly a miracle if you really deep it. So if you're listening to this episode as you're going through a hard time, you must be thinking, I'm at my wit's end. I'm not built for this. Oh Allah, please don't make me your strongest soldier this year. There are two things I want to remind you of. One, I want to tell you that there's ease on the other side. It's literally right there waiting to meet you at the right time. And number two, you will not be disappointed by the relief Allah provides you through that ease. It will be so grand, so much so that pain for you, that pain you're feeling right now will be a distant memory. SubhanAllah. And that is true. That is fact. I know you have so many tips and a nasiha, but before we go, I guess the last question I'll ask you, and this is the final one, is what advice would you give youth who might be listening to this episode? Because TDS has a lot of 13, 14-year-old, 15-year-old listening. What nasiha would you give them? Like, what would you tell them that you wish somebody told you when you were their age?
First of all, I would have said to the kids, never learn your deen on internet. Never learn your deen on internet. Like, if you have to go learn your deen somewhere, it's gonna be with, someone with trust. Like, not anybody can you
learn from.
Yes. You have to know where this person learned in, which teacher, and if he's someone that you can trust, Second thing is that if you are alone and not able to learn your deen, at least go back to the basis, learning Quran and learning Arabic. Because wallahi, the deen, when you know Arabic, the deen's it's open more door
to understanding.
Yes, for the understand it, like when you even read it, Quran and etc. So just coming back to the basis, like learning Quran, learning Arabic, and just the stuff, not start to go to the stuff complicated, the jurisprudence and all the stuff that it's not on your level. It's not on your level. Just start with the basic and start just being someone that able to do the salat, being someone that always bring on time, doing your fridge, and start to do, the basis. Once you stick to the basis, and then you have a good comportment, having the behavior, the Muslim behavior, because just working on your character, learning the Quran, staying steadfast on the salat, on the
straight
Quran.
line, on the straight line.
Yes, exactly. Just come on the basis, and after that you can see for the future if you can go to someone to teach you the deen, to the mosque or any other estimate, never in the internet site.
We at the Digital Sisterhood are so grateful for Sara for her bravery in sharing her story. She was very hesitant to do so at first. And if I'm being honest, we were also hesitant to share it. We were so worried about how this could be misconstrued or if it could potentially harm Sara, who, by the way, his name has been changed for confidentiality reasons. But we see so many of you turn to the internet for guidance in your faith journey. I mean, I did it. I used to ask Sheikh Google all the time. That's where the internet was for. was his place to receive information. I mean, you're here listening to us every week. And while the internet can be a beautiful means of building community across different countries and time zones and sharing resources at a broader scale, we still want you to be really careful with who you trust to get your information from. And we thought this episode was really important to share because with everything that's going on in the world, with all the pain and tragedy and genocide and just tyranny going on, we are all angry. We are all upset. We're all feeling despair, hopelessness. We're all feeling all kinds of emotions. And do you think that it's just us as adults, late 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds? There are young people, subhanAllah, who are seeing what's going on around them and who are having to kind of make sense of it all. And then on top of that, there are young people who are going through difficult situations, who are being tested with their faith at such a young age. What do you think is going on with them? This is a plea for our community to check on our children, our siblings, our younger siblings, to make sure they're okay, to help them process these difficult emotions. Because if we do not, somebody else will. We cannot lose our children, our youth to this. We can't afford to. And so this episode is really about how can we protect our children from the unknown dangers that the internet might bring them with everything that's going on in the world. We have to be there for them. We have to be conscious of this. A lot of our team members grew up in the West, right? Like I grew up in the West, struggled to find a Muslim community. So I feel their struggle. I understand their struggle. And to be honest, if somebody caught me when I was young, right? When I was at the start of my journey, if I had just met the wrong person, I could have easily as well been like Sara. That's the truth. So if you're young, if you're listening to me right now and you're on the start of your journey and you don't have all the information, you don't have a teacher, maybe you gain most of your Islamic knowledge online, unsupervised, please just listen to me when I say this. Not everyone on the internet shares your pure intentions and love for the deen. I don't care what they look like. I don't care what they say about Allah. Especially these days, unfortunately, there are so many people out there targeting Muslims, particularly young Muslims whose hearts are full of passion. So please, my beloved sisters, protect your hearts, protect your deen. Be selective in who you trust. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you always. Love you. Digital sisterhood show. The digital sisterhood show. You already know what time it is, like clockwork. I want to give a shout out to our production team, lead producer Hanna, Adan. Woo! Thank you for this episode, sis. I want to give a big shout out actually, to our writer Sara, Emira. Jazakallah khair for this episode. Our sound designer Youssef, Douazou. Our production manager always, Maaheen Khan-Bashir. I want to give a shout out to our marketing and design team. Okay, they're the extraordinary team. That's what we call them now. Wasima, Farah, Sawsan, Abdillahi, Khadija, Musa, and Mariya, Shan. Last but not least, okay, probably the most important shout out is our cover artist. Thank you so much for this beautiful piece. I want to give a shout out to Fatimah, Nadeem. MashaAllah, tabarakallah, sis. Chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. Loved it. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you guys. And that's a wrap. That is literally a wrap for season 4. Thank you so much for opening your hearts, opening us to your homes, letting us into your lives. I really hope that this season inspired good out of you. That's the point why we tell stories, is to challenge our ways of thinking But more importantly, is to create sisterhood, is to create camaraderie, is to create togetherness. And I hope and I pray that this season brought that. We worked tirelessly, like on all levels with everyone. I cannot tell you what it took from us to create this season. And we did it with so much love. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from every single one of us, especially the production team, the design team, the artist, everyone who did this fi sabilillah first. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept it from all of you. And thank you to the listeners for always, always supporting us. I can't tell you how much that means to all of us. We wouldn't be doing what we're doing. We wouldn't have jobs the way we have jobs if it wasn't for you guys. Wallahi, I love you guys truly for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you for just, being who you guys are, and thank you for giving us meaning in our work. I guess my final request is just keep us in your du'as. Keep us in your du'as, man. We really need it. And inshallah, many more seasons, many more episodes, many more things. You already know we're not going anywhere, inshallah. If Allah permits us, we will be back sooner than you know. Wink, wink, the fall season. Wink, wink. With a brand new season, inshallah. I love you guys again. Jazakallah khair. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. See you guys soon.